5 children.
Senator Ted Cruz and Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot battling it out over gun control on Twitter. It all began when Senator Cruz criticized the city's laws after a violent Labor Day weekend. Lightfoot then ripped him and said, quote, coward Republicans, blamed them for not passing federal gun control laws. Martin Priebe is from Chicago's Fraternal Order of Police and joins us now. Good morning, Martin. First, your reaction to that back and forth that we have seen from the Texas senator and the Chicago mayor.
Well, good morning. Violence often spurs this debate over gun control between the left and the right, but I think in Chicago it's sort of a secondary issue. It's not the essential issue. The violence in Chicago is gang-rooted, and for the most part, and every week our officers get guns off the streets, and most of them are not legally obtained. They're illegally obtained. So I understand that this is very common debate, but I don't really think it necessarily is going to illuminate much as far as policy goes and approach to addressing crime in Chicago.
She makes that point. She went on to say, and this is all tweeting through her political account, Lightfoot for Chicago. She said 60% of illegal firearms recovered in Chicago come from outside of the state of Illinois, mostly from states dominated by, in her words, coward Republicans like you, directed towards Ted Cruz, who refused to enact common sense gun legislation. Keep our name out of your mouth. So she's making the case that this has nothing to do with the gun laws in the city of Chicago, that this is guns being brought in from, in her words, Republican-controlled states.
Well, okay, so why isn't there the same kind of violence in those states as there is in that have the more availability of guns than there is in Chicago? The question here is there's two things here: gangs and public servants. Elected officials doing their job. Mm-hmm. In Chicago, the mayor needs to focus on the fact that we have a prosecutor who's not prosecuting the laws that already exist, and the judges are not holding them accountable. There's a breakdown in Chicago between the police and the prosecutors, and I think that's what's driving, that's the threat to public safety, and this gun debate is a little bit secondary. I just don't think it's that essential to what's going on.
Eddie Johnson, the Chicago police superintendent, seems to take the back of Ted Cruz in this back and forth, saying this, quote, until we create a mental culture of accountability in Chicago and get tougher on the illegal flow, then we'll continue to see these things going on. I stay out of the political part of it, and I just focus on keeping this city safe. Here is Mayor Lightfoot on how she sees the ability to solve the gun control problem that she cites in her own words.
We ought to try to come together and solve one of the core problems with gun violence, which is this patchwork of systems in different states, different neighboring states having different systems, because the federal government hasn't stepped up to do its job.
So she said to Senator Cruz, come to Chicago. Let's walk the streets together so we can see this problem and try to solve it. So we invited, by the way, Senator Cruz to come on the program this morning. Wasn't available, did not agree to do that. And Senator Lightfoot, or Mayor Lightfoot, we asked her to come on, and we were told that she could not make it on either, basically a no. So we'd love to get them to both respond, but why not? Why not? Senator Cruz could go walk the streets of Chicago with her.
Excellent idea. A great comment by Superintendent Johnson, too. Excellent idea, but here's what they should do. The two of them should walk the neighborhoods, but they should have an expert with them. And the expert that they should have with them to explain what's going on in those neighborhoods are a 20 or 30-year veteran, a police officer who's worked that neighborhood, who knows the gangs, who knows the history of the gangs, who knows the shootings, and can tell you what happened to the cases of the arrests and the investigations they did as it moved up the chain through the criminal justice system. That way, I think they both would get a very clear understanding of the unique ways in which Chicago does and does not deal with crime. So they must have that expert, and that expert is a Chicago police officer.
Good stuff. A few seconds left here. Just how is the city doing? You know, you were coming off a summer of many more violent weekends, Martin.
Well, you know, you talked about consensus. There's two things you got to watch. In Chicago, we get a lot of guns off the street, and that shows that the police are doing their job. But the resolution rates for these cases are extraordinarily low, and this is not because of the police are not doing their job. It's because the prosecutor, Kimberly Fox, is not doing her job.
Martin Priebe, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for coming on.